listening to the Mothership Connection, your cosmic link to the other side.
Do not attempt to adjust your computer. There is nothing wrong. We have taken control as to bring you this special show. The Mothership flies through cyberspace once again. Episode number 43, as they say on Uranus. My name is Dobie Maxwell. I am driving the ship. My co-stars on the left and right. This is Greg DeGuire with his brand new cookie duster, his facial hair.
This is my Indians hat for celebrating Thanksgiving.
The Native Americans.
That's right.
And this is our Millennial Falcon, Carrie Turner, who's got her Marvel shirt on.
Yes.
In honor of the big passing. Now, you guys have to educate me. I am a comic book casual fan. I had a cousin, Jeff Parker, who owned a chain of comic book stores called Collector's Edge in Milwaukee. And all the comic book geeks that were there said, we're only going to talk to you because you're Jeff's cousin. Because they speak their own language, the whole thing. I am totally out of my league, so I'm going to pass the torch and listen and learn.
Yeah.
Well, Carrie, you met him.
I did. That was...
Why don't you tell a little bit about that?
It was unbelievable because when you go to your first Comic-Con, I think I was 17 at the time, and it was just a whole joke all day. We're like, what if we run into Stan Lee? What if we run into some celebrity? And it happened. So we're up by the bathroom. We had already seen one of our favorite celebrities from Doctor Who. But as we're over there, we're all chit-chatting, and behind us you hear someone whisper, that's Stan Lee coming our way. We're like, no. We look, there he is in his little go-kart and his and his little bodyguard. And he's
Who's going to attack Stan Lee?
Nobody. He's the
You'd be
nicest
surprised.
guy. Got to shake his hand. And I just told him thank you. I think that's one of the best things ever. Just to give him a thank you. That's all I needed in my life with Marvel. I grew up with it. Not so much comics, and I do appreciate the Marvel comics, but I was 5 when the first Spider-Man movie came out.
Why was he so great? I'm curious.
Imaginative.
Yeah, his imagination and his he
I
had
have an imagination. They call me a kook.
Well-
He's a genius. What's the difference?
because he had a particular grasp for the world at the time needed superheroes, because his beginnings were pretty dark days. In World War II, America was in a rough spot and they needed heroes. So his imagination, with the help of many others, came up with some of the greatest superheroes that we have. Captain America, Thor, the Incredible Hulk, Spider-Man. I want to say Spider-Man was probably one of his favorites.
Yep.
He talked an awful lot about Spider-Man, just being an everyday kid, being thrust in these ridiculous situations.
I read that him and Dr. Seuss were in the same World War II battalion, too.
Really?
I read that, and they read each other's stories.
Mm.
The bomb in the hat.
Horton heard a what? Horton heard a bomber going overhead. I don't know. But I mean, just the kind of ideas that he had and the stories ideas stood the test of time. Superheroes come and go. Squirrel Girl, all kind of weird stuff, right? Didn't last. Captain America went through the ages and had a resurgence in the early 60s when it became the Avengers.
Why was there never a Captain Canada?
Good day, eh?
You know,
How's it going there,
the
eh?
books would be 20% more.
Maple
Yeah.
syrup for all.
Yes, yeah, maple syrup coupons. You get a free stuff in the boot. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Captain Canada could be... Captain Canada is a Mountie going around from town to town solving problems of the world. But Captain Canada is a maple leaf instead of American flag. So we just come up with superhero. Who's Stanley? What? I mean, here, we just...
I actually had a friend that drew Captain Canadian. It's
Captain Canadian?
It was...
I mean-
I'll have to find it because I know it. My friend Graham, I'm calling you out right now.
What would be a sidekick? Canadian Goose? The liquor?
Sure.
Everyone take a
moose.
shot? Yeah. Canadian Goose, the moose? I don't know. But his ideas at the time, again, stood the test of time. And then when he needed a bit of a resurgence, they come up with the idea of putting them all together in the form of the Avengers. Now, the biggest... So, MASH. I'm going to bring MASH into this just for a moment, because there's an episode. Now, MASH took place during the Korean War. So, 1956, 57, 58, that kind of time era. Radar is seen holding an Avengers comic book, which is about 10 years too early. Radar was a big comic book fan, and the guy he always talked to on the other end, Sparky. Anytime anyone would watch MASH and Radar hit the radio, hey, Sparky, you there? Sparky was Sergeant, I forget his name, but Sergeant Pryor. we only saw him one time in the entire series. Sergeant Pryor had a southern accent, and every time Sparky made something happen, you go, Shazam. Now that's a DC thing. So I mean, he had Marvel Comics, but Shazam was a DC guy.
To me, it's a Gomer Pyle thing.
Well, now it's a Gomer Pyle thing, but superhero Shazam was there. So, anyways, as far as Avengers and TV goes, before they hit the movies and everything else, but Spider-Man was a TV show back in the '80s.
Mm-hmm.
You can YouTube it. It's god awful. Watch it, but don't watch them all. You'll fall asleep. And then there was a transformation from David Banner, the TV show, to Bruce Banner, another types of the other Hulk.
I watched that as a kid.
And so I grew up with the Lou Ferrigno Hulk on TV, and there was a bit of a sort of an Avengers where Thor came into town and Hulk and Thor had an adventure.
You're Thor. I can barely stand.
So I mean, it's been around. His ideas have always been around, and then he got into doing some cameos. Especially in one of the Mallrats, the Jay and Silent Bob movie. That was one of the first times he was on a movie. I could be mistaken. That was one of the first times he appeared in a movie that wasn't his own.
No.
And then when the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man hit, then he was from there on in. He had a little cameo in every single Marvel Adventure-esque movie. Not necessarily the giant conglomerate that's the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we know today, but we're talking about the other 3 Spider-Man movies. Were there any other? Was it just the 3 Spider-Man? He wasn't in Deadpool. Was he in Deadpool? Anyone remember the Deadpool?
So.
We have an audience of 2.
Was
Studio member
X-Men?
X and Studio member Y. And I don't know. I don't think he was in the Deadpool movies. At any rate, he's usually had a cameo in most. But he was in now the other Spider-Man movies with Andrew Garfield. He was in at least the first one. I don't know if he was in the second one. Yeah.
I only saw the second one once, but I really just, like I said, I was 5 years old when the Tobey Maguire ones came out, so I grew up with those ones, and I watched them all the time.
They're still my favorite Spider-Man movies.
Yep.
I liked the first Andrew Garfield one. I did not like the second one. Anytime you put more than one bad guy, it tends to get kind of convoluted. Thank you, Batman movies, for almost ruining that. And we're talking about before the Christopher Nolan movies. We're talking about the other Batman movies that Michael Keaton started in anyway.
Why does there need to be so many remakes of the same character? Batman had a bunch, Spider-Man had a bunch. Just why do we need that?
Because the stories get reimagined in time. Because the early issues of the 60s, they got to issue like 300, 400, 500, and the story got old. So the original writers handed it off to younger writers, and they take stories in different directions. Like you have the Amazing Spider-Man. Peter Parker Spider-Man. There's always the Spider-Verse. You've got 6 different Spider-Mans. You've got Spider-Woman Gwen. You've got a bunch of So you got all these different authors coming in. Then they're going to reimagine it, see? So the Amazing Spider-Man, and then there was just Spider-Man who had similar backstories, but yet took similar yet different paths to get where they needed to go. So I think movies, it gets confusing when you keep reissuing movies with the same characters. I think it gets confusing. That's why with this third envisioning of Spider-Man, with Spider-Man Homecoming, they didn't go too far into the backstory because it's been done twice on movies before. I can't sit through it again. I can't do it. So I think what they did with Spider-Man Homecoming, what's the new feller's name?
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. I think he did an excellent job because Spider-Man was supposed to always be just a high school kid who got bit by a spider and all of a sudden found himself smarter than everyone else around him and had to come up with all these gadgets and whatnot to be the Spider-Man. So I think what they did with Homecoming was nice. They didn't keep rehashing. They're just showing a different adventure leading into Spider-Man's adventures with the Avengers.
It was fun seeing him not just in a standalone movie first. He was in Civil War before the whole... I like that
Of which
a lot.
I thought the Captain America Civil War movie was fantastic. It's one of my favorites. It brings all these characters together before an official Avengers movie.
I think that one will hold up.
Dobie, have you seen any of the newer... like the Iron Man movies, the Captain America movies. Have you seen any of these recently?
The last movie I saw was Close Encounters of the Third Kind in 1977. And I read the book before that.
Yes.
I heard they got a New Testament now. The last time
I would just skip and get the cliff notes. That'd be what I would do.
No, I really haven't, and that's one of the things I like about the show is that we go in so many different directions. Nobody knows everything. I think I know half a little bit. My brain looks like a BB compared to what you guys are talking about, and it's okay because I think it's good to have a point of connection. If you meet somebody and say, okay, you like Spider-Man movies, it's like that it's with you your entire life. To me, the Batman Adam West of the 60s, that was my thing. I meet people my age.
Oh, wait. I need you to retell the story about how you met Adam West.
Oh, yeah.
It's my favorite. So we're talking about chance meetings of famous people.
Well, twice.
That's-
I had a car that was I
This
decorated
guy's-
like the Batmobile
Yeah.
in Milwaukee growing up. I painted bats on the doors and my own like I said, the directors come along. I envisioned what the Batmobile. It was a station wagon, so I don't think Batman had a station wagon with fake strips of batwood down the side.
The Batman shaggin'
The
wagon.
Batman
right there.
wagon, the country Bat Squire.
Yes.
That was actually a Chevrolet wagon. The first one, I had a few of them, and one of them was pretty cool. And it got in the Milwaukee paper. In my paper, I was in high school, and then it had the Bat poles and the Batmobile driving around the streets. And they were going to make the first Batman movie, the Jack Nicholson version.
Okay.
But Jack Nicholson wasn't cast yet, and we all assumed, as crazy as it sounds, that Adam West. Well, there's no other Batman. Adam West is going to
Should
be
be in
Batman.
the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, they haven't called me yet." And we all gasp. And they showed the '60s movie in UWM in Milwaukee, and people could line up, and then you could meet Adam West afterwards. So I put my little article out, and I was so proud, and I waited in line, and he looked at it with a look of horror, and he looked at me and said, "You drove this on the streets?" Yes. And he signed it and just rolled his eyes and gave it to me. And I skulked away my childhood dreams,
We're
stomped
laughing
out
at poor
like
Dobie's
a
misadventures.
grape,
I'm
like
sorry.
a squash
Poor misery.
mosquito.
Really funny.
It was the biggest hero of your life, just craps on you, full bore, with no toilet paper, plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is.
What a bat relief it is.
So years later, I was working at
Oh,
the...
I'm sorry, guano relief.
Guano. I was working at a radio station, The Loop in Chicago, which is a big station, and they had the Hollywood show where all the people, Daisy Duke was there and everybody, and they were going to bring Adam West and Frank Gorshin, who was the Riddler, and whoever else was alive. I think everybody else was pretty much dead. And we just so happened we had a table like this for the radio station, and a table behind us was a horseshoe shape, and the Bat guys were right behind us. So I saw them come, they're talking to their manager thing, they have 6 feet from Batman and the Riddler, this is the coolest thing in the world. So I had to use the Bat room, no pun intended.
Go to the bat cave.
The Bat, no, this wasn't the Bat cave, I didn't slide down any poles. It was the Bat crapper.
Bat crapper.
So I'm on there, and we still get there, and there's Adam West at the exact same time, 2 seconds after I got there, him and me and no one else, and the door was locked. It was locked at the hotel. And I looked at Adam West right in the eye, this close, and I said, "Holy no shit, Batman." You couldn't get in the bathroom. And he looked at me again like, "Oh my God." And he turned around and he walked away. I'm thinking, 0 for 2. Strike 2, right down the plate.
Batter up. As they
Batter
say.
down.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
never got your third chance either.
I did get my
Wait,
third chance.
you did?
Yes, I did. Because I'm thinking, okay, I got to make up for this. This is my lifelong
What?
hero.
I didn't hear this one.
I'm 6 feet behind him. I got to do something. So I had a comedy CD, and Adam West happened to be from Walla Walla, Washington. And a true story, I was performing in Walla Walla, Washington. And I took the gig just because I knew it was his hometown. And I went downtown and I went in the stores. Oh, Adam West is from here, and his real name is William Anderson, and blah, blah, blah. And up there I said, Mr. West, I'm really sorry about that back there. I've been nothing else, but I'm a comedian, and that's my job to try to make jokes. I know every idiot in the town comes up to you, but I perform in Walla Walla, Washington, just because I know it was your hometown. And his eyes lit up. You were in Walla Walla? Let me see it. I'm going to listen to this. Hey, Frank, this guy's a comedian. You're a comedian. So I got to meet the Riddler, and he was from Pittsburgh. So I got to Frank Gorshin, and I performed at a theater that he started at, and I told him that it was called the Holiday House Theater. You went to the Holiday House, and we were buddies, and 2 years later, they were both dead.
Oh.
No, but it's so funny just to turn it around and think 0 for 2.
Wow.
So I reached out and I hit the foul ball on the outside of the plate. So the hometown. So that's the thing. If you meet a celebrity or someone that's up to you, know something about them that isn't too goofy, and it'll change their whole state.
Cool.
Mhm.
So when you guys have a lot
Good
of
lesson.
celebrities, good lesson.
He was
Yeah.
so good when he met SpongeBob, though. Tom Kenny.
Oh.
Oh, Tom Kenny's a great guy.
Yeah.
He got him, Tom Kenny to laugh
Yep.
at what he said. I thought that was
Yep.
so cool.
Well, I mean, I just told him a story about how I started watching SpongeBob, and I'm standing there, he's signing this thing, and I said, I got to quick tell you, because studio member X here and I used to work together at a tavern here in town. He was the manager, I was the torpedo at the door checking IDs, and that was Saturday night. We get home at 2:33 in the morning. I'd pass out on the couch, and I'd wake up sometime around noon on Sunday, start channel flipping, and on Nickelodeon, they were playing marathons of SpongeBob. And that was a newer cartoon at the time. And the episode that caught me was, it was called Squidward's Day Off, right? So Krabs has to leave because he's injured. He has to go to the hospital. And Squidward's in charge. Squidward don't want to be in charge. Squidward wants to go home. So he takes his hat off and gives it to SpongeBob. So SpongeBob, why don't we wear 2 hats today? SpongeBob's eyes all light up like it's the greatest day ever for him. And And Squidward says, okay, I'm going to go. I have some errands I have to run, and say, I'll be back. So every time then Squidward goes home, he has no errands to run. He goes home and puts his feet up. He's got a suntan. He's got the umbrella hat on. Then he envisions that SpongeBob is going to screw up the Krusty Krab, see? He keeps thinking that the place is going to burn down. So he runs to the Krusty Krab like every 5 minutes to check, and SpongeBob is just sitting there like there's no customers, right? In 5 minutes, runs down, comes home, has a vision, goes back, runs there, and SpongeBob every time, hey, Squidward, are you finished with those errands yet? Are you finished with those errands yet? Are you finished with those errands yet? Infinity. And one time, Squidward comes in, and SpongeBob says for the last time, hey, Squidward, are you finished with those errands yet? And Squidward's like, I don't like the tone of your voice. And SpongeBob says, are you finished with those errands yet? He changed the tone of his voice.
And you said that to Tom Kenny?
I told that to Tom Kenny, and he laughed. It was a belly laugh. It was a good laugh. And it felt silly explaining the episode to SpongeBob.
He lived it.
He was there. He was there, man.
You don't think that's a great thing? That you want to hear that? I get to meet George Carlin one time. And there's an album, if you're young and you haven't heard it before, it's called Class Clown. And
I know what this is.
Pretty R-rated.
It's a good one.
My brother's 2 years older than I was probably 9 or 10, and he was 11 or 12, and he got it for Christmas, my brother Larry, and we played it and played it and played it until we couldn't play it anymore, and I believe that's the one with the 7 words you can't say on TV. And I went to George Carlin, and I said, I just want to tell you that my brother and I could not stop laughing. We played it so many times, we wore it out, and we had to buy another one because it was so great. I know you get sick of hearing that, but I just had to tell you. And he goes, why would I get sick of hearing that? He said, it's what I live for, to put something together, to have you come 40 years, 30, whatever years later and tell me it was great. Thank you very much. And he couldn't be any more humble. And Tom Kenny was another one. I started out in comedy, and he was a guy that people really picked that he was going to do something.
Yeah.
And everybody thought so. And he kind of almost had the Buddy Holly look. He had like a pompadour.
Yep.
I don't know how
Yeah, he's got a 50s look to him with the glasses.
Yeah.
He's got a very 50s look to him. I'll buy that.
And that's how he kind of came across it. And there's comedians that say, well, whatever happened to Tom Kenny? Well, he did okay for himself.
He did very well.
Yeah. And he could go into a restaurant and have dinner and not be mobbed.
No, very few people really know what he looks like.
Yep, that's true.
Now, I did the same thing with Daphne Zuniga. She was Princess Vespa in Spaceballs. When I got a chance to meet her at the same convention, I told her my favorite scene when she's given the rifle and she's mowing down people and like, wow, that's not bad. And she's like, yeah, that's not bad for Rambo. Or before she gets the rifle, they shot at her and they shot her hair. It's like, hey, they shot my hair, son of a bitch. And she cocks the rifle back and just mows people down. And she said that I didn't know that line was ad-libbed. It was never in the script. Mel Brooks likes a couple takes a couple different ways. Like, let's do the script. Let's do what you think. Let's do what you think, and we'll take the best one. And that was, she come up with that idea.
That's where Mel Brooks is smart.
Yep.
Yeah, multiple scenes from the same thing to see how it goes. Because you don't know,
what you were saying about George Carlin, that's the same thing that happened with Stan Lee. Every story that I've read about him this week said that he just loved hearing what people, what they love about Marvel.
Sure.
In general. He says he never gets sick of hearing it.
Now, a couple of years ago, I forget what channel it was on.
Cool.
I think it was Sci-Fi. What they did is they had like these 5 strangers live in a house together type of show, but it was 5 comic book artists live in a show, and the winner of the show got to be an intern at Marvel Comics and an intern for Stan Lee.
How cool.
God, this show was like maybe 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago. Anyway, so halfway through the show, they get to pitch their idea to Stan Lee. Whatever your idea is for your comic book, you got 5 minutes with the dude. Get at it, right? And the one idea he picked, it was a girl's idea. She had the idea of a villainess, but she had seeing the story from the villain's point of view, because just about everything we see is from the hero's point of view. You never know what the bad guy's up to or what the bad guy got through to get to be the bad guy. I mean, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But he was very intrigued with that idea, and he greenlit her project. Now, I don't know whatever became of that, or if it went nowhere. But I thought that was a really cool idea. Like, he gave his time. Like, the show was going to be to his benefit anyways. But halfway through the show, they didn't know they were ever going to meet him anyways. And here, he gave them each 5 minutes of time. What you got, kid? Go.
That's
pitch.
awesome.
I thought that was pretty cool of him.
He's so spry.
I think we should have a superhero that can fart out crime.
I like it.
I mean, how much
My
time does
name
that to
is
sit there?
Gas Attack.
Yeah, exactly.
My sidekick, Gas Mask.
Pull my finger, bad guy.
See what happens.
But I'm saying, you know that people have to hear that all the time.
Oh,
Sure,
no.
yeah.
I mean, if you ever meet a comedian, not that we don't think we're better than anybody, But as a comedian, you don't want to hear a joke, and people come up to you everywhere, especially at a
Do you
cruise
want to hear a
ship.
joke?
No, and they'll tell it anyway, and it's vile and filthy and dirty and foul and racist and pedophilic and everything bad and religious, misogynistic, and they'll always say the same thing after they get done telling it.
Oh,
And you can
you
use
should
that
use
in
that.
your act. Thank you very much. You're this flaming, steamy pile of dog shit on fire. But
You press the delete button in your
exactly,
head.
no, they gotta hear it again, and they'll tell the same one.
especially
And
if
blow
they
the
had a
punchline.
couple of beers.
Oh.
They're the greatest jokes of all
So
time.
the same thing, I gotta believe someone like Stanley. Now we have our audience members, and it's very interesting to hear what I was listening to them before the show, and what you guys said, what my comic book, my cousin would say, Marvel, cool, hip, great, DC, stodgy, crap, but Batman and Superman are two of the biggest heroes, but Marvel
they
has
are.
always been cool,
Yep.
ever since. Why is that?
I mean,
Is that
it's
Stan
just,
Lee? Is that a reflection of Stan Lee?
yeah, and it's
So-
also a reflection of the audience that they're going to. I mean, Superman and Captain America are very parallel, right? Clearly, one's an alien and one isn't, but still, they're do-gooders. They're constant do-gooders.
It's this guy's patriotism, is what it is.
Yeah.
I think so,
Yeah,
yeah.
very much
Batman was kind of like an anti-hero because he fought crime, not necessarily always at the place like he would do sometimes what the cops wouldn't do.
Right.
So he was,
He'd go beyond the law.
yeah, I mean, I don't think they call him an anti-hero then, but they certainly do now.
They made him into
Because
one.
he is now the Dark Knight, so he would do he's the rogue that does what he needs to do to get justice done. And that speaks to a certain audience, and it speaks more to others. For me personally, I grew up watching the Batman TV show. I never knew what a DC comic was. Like, I didn't know. By the way, DC stands for Detective Comics, and it was always called Detective Comics until at some point in time they just narrowed it down to DC.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know that.
If
And-
Adam was here, he would vouch. He loves
Yeah.
DC way more than Marvel.
And
He's the first person I've ever heard.
and Batman was a rich guy with a butler, and Alfred's last name was Pennyworth?
Yeah.
Alfred Pennyworth, who is a member of MI6. That's how he got to be. Anyways, I know too much about this stuff I don't even own a Batman comic book, I'm sorry to say.
It's interesting.
But there was speaking of DC Comics and Stan Lee, I want to go back to the Big Bang Theory. They had a chance to meet Stan Lee at the comic book store. And that was the episode where Sheldon went to jail. But what he was going to do, he was going to have Stan Lee sign an issue of Batman. And they would think 100 years from now, what an odd artifact to have Stan Lee sign an issue of Batman. And Raj was going to rip into Stan Lee because he had all these people with the same letter, the first and last name. Pepper Potts, Bruce Banner, Peter Parker, Victor Von Doom, all these the same names. And he was going to shred him. For that one, and they all got to go have a gelato with Stan Lee, except for Sheldon and Raj, because Raj shit on him the whole time. And then Sheldon gets out of jail, and they eventually go to meet Stan Lee at his house, and Sheldon bursts in, and he gets a restraining order against him.
What do you guys think about the possibilities of Marvel continuing the cutting edge after Stanley's dead? Like Disney did pretty well after Walt died.
Easily, because I don't think Stanley hasn't written a comic book in years, but I guarantee you, whatever notebook he had in his deathbed is going to get published tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, whatever idea he had, they're going to take and run with. I don't think he's had a lot to do with day-to-day operations.
He was just kind of watching. I think it was a producer.
Yeah, he would come into the meetings with all these new comics, and he would hear it out. Keep, you're out, right?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And that's great. I think it's great that he still did that. He still had a vision of what he thought things ought to be.
Even though I read somewhere he technically left in like 1972 from Marvel, if I'm correct.
But they thought so highly of him that they kept him on the managing board all the time. And now, who was the co-author of Captain America?
I don't know that one.
Oh man, I should know. I don't remember. Anyways, the co-author's family was invited to the Captain America movie premieres, so they're still involved because it wasn't Stan Lee alone. He didn't do this alone.
No.
He certainly had help, and because of that help, got to where this was. I mean, my first Marvel comic book, the closest comic book store to where I lived on 65th and 22nd. I was in the heart of Kenosha, and within walking distance, there was a little store called the Comic Emporium. So I was big into G.I. Joe, and G.I. Joe was a Marvel comic. So that was my first Marvel comic book. I didn't really buy too much in the premise of superheroes because I love me some G.I. Joe. I don't know why, but it spoke to me. I think the cartoons, I loved every aspect of it. So that's all the comic books I ever got. Had I known then what I know now, clearly, because all the issues from the 80s, that's called the golden age of comic books right now, all those issues would have been worth more than you can possibly
That's
imagine.
not the golden
yeah.
age, is it? Isn't it the golden age?
I thought it was like 50s and 60s.
That's
for
the
both.
Silver
Or is
Age,
it? Yeah.
wasn't
Right. Yes, it's the golden age, the silver age, And then I forget what the 80s are called, like the
The
modern
aluminum
age.
can age.
Yes, the aluminum can age.
Yeah.
Anyways, those issues of the 80s are worth almost as much as some of the early ones. Now, remember C2E2? They had some of the original issues of,
Oh my God.
was it the first Spider-Man for like
Thousands.
$3,000?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So yeah, some of these original comic books, I think Batman first appeared in Detective Comics 27. If you have that issue, you can retire.
Does anybody remember Big Boy comics?
Oh my God. No, but I don't doubt that they existed.
Big
I'm
Boy
sure
was
they
a
did.
restaurant, and you go there, and every few months they had a Big Boy and his girlfriend Dolly and his dog Nugget,
God.
and they had these little stories.
They
And
had a dog? I didn't know they had
They
a
had
dog.
a dog. That's it. You guys live in a different world here. I grew up with my grandparents, so
Yeah.
it was a big deal to go to Big Boy
Big-
and have the old people oatmeal plate, and watch all these old people gum their food, and then you get a little comment. Oh, here, little boy, have a comic book, and then you go
The
read it.
maze on the placemats.
Yeah,
Right.
so they had an art contest.
Color by number.
Yeah, they had all that stuff. That was pretty cool when you're 8
Please
years
tell
old.
me the contest is called Color My Big Boy. So you can take that in 1,000 different
No, Color My Nugget. That's what it was. So what they had was, it was an art contest, and you had to draw a building. That was it. The contest had to draw a building. Could be an igloo, could be a football stadium, a building. And I thought, well, this is I'm 9 years old, whatever it was. I drew a Big Boy restaurant, and it won. And
Huh.
so I mailed it in and drew with color, coloring, sent it in. And you get this big thing of paint art set. I remember it was hanging up at the Big Boy the next time I
Oh,
went
how
there.
cool.
I went up to the lady and I said, "Could I have that picture up there, please?" "Oh no, little boy, somebody drew that." "I know, I did." "Oh my gosh, you did it!"
Your celebrity
Yeah,
at Big
I got
Boy.
kissed by Agnes, the big fat manager.
Kiss my grits.
Kiss my grits. Exactly.
Sounds like the name of an album, Kissed by Agnes.
Kissed by Agnes. Yeah, it was pretty rough. And that is hanging in the Smithsonian today.
It's right next to the
Security guards
it's right
Right
everywhere.
next to the Spirit of St. Louis.
To the-
There's a wanting to see the Big Boy.
To the crap house wall on the mobile station on Highway 50.
I was just there. How did I miss it in,
Well,
in
it's,
GC?
exactly. It's got one of those 24-hour. If you walk in front of the light beam, the security guards on 24 hours. I think we did our big finish a long time ago for this particular episode.
That's all right.
If you'd like to contact us, how do we do that?
All right, we have our Mothership Connection page itself on Facebook. We have our friend page under Gregory DeGuire, Instagram Mothership Talk Show, and our email tinfoiltalkshow@gmail.com.
Or Signal Us by Bat Signal.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is episode 43. Give us a chance. If we hit 50, we'll. That's going to be. These are like baby teeth. Baby teeth fall out for a reason, and then the real shows start. So we're warming up. We're coming at you, and thank you for watching. The Mothership will fly on, coming soon to a computer near you. We'll be back.